Hey guys, Vinnie Mirchandani here. I've been talking to a number of executives in different industries on, the crisis we're seeing, how it's impacting their sectors, what acrobatics they're seeing, and yet what the future is likely to look like in their sectors. So today I have the pleasure to introduce Dennis Hodges. He's a CIO at Inteva Products. It's a fairly influential supplier to most of the big OEMs. I'll let him introduce himself and talk a little bit about Inteva, and then we'll jump into some other questions. Dennis, welcome aboard.
Thanks, Vinny. Yeah, my name is Dennis Hodges. I'm the CIO at Inteva Products. We're a tier one auto supplier in the northern suburbs of Detroit. We, I've been the CIO here for about 12 and a half years now. We spun off from Delphi in March of '08, and I started about 6 months before that. So I've had the pleasure of working with the organization that entire time, of growing it from, we were about $1 billion business. We grew quite a bit, did an acquisition, a large acquisition, recently spun that part of that acquisition off and are settling into the new normal.
Yeah, you're almost as big as Delphi.
Yeah.
Talking about, Detroit, I know your area, Metro Detroit, has been fairly significantly impacted. Are you doing okay? Are your employees doing okay?
Yes, we had a couple of people in the U.S. and in Germany that had a case. Fortunately, they were mild cases. Yeah, Detroit's been hit hard. If you look at the city, it's the city of Detroit that's had the most trouble. We're in the northern county, Oakland County, and the numbers have been higher than most in the country. But Detroit itself is a little bit more like New York in that it's had very high numbers. So we all sympathize with the city. It's a Detroit is a historical city. It's a great place. It is the birthplace of it is the Motor City. In a lot of ways, it still is. Moving here from Texas 13 years ago, it's interesting that while everyone talks about the demise of the big three, and now they're called the Detroit Three, all the other automakers have technical centers or research centers
Sure.
in the area because it is just such a hot spot of automotive.
Yeah, we're talking about hotspots. I've been seeing at least a bit, two of the big three have been doing all kinds of acrobatics, right? Getting into ventilators. Tesla's been talking about that. We are seeing 3M just significantly increase capacity for N95s. We're seeing distilleries get into hand sanitizer. It seems like manufacturing product assortment has just been amazingly hectic. What have people expected Inteva to do? Anything similar?
Well, we are making masks in face shields, primarily for internal consumption, so that we don't, overload the already existing overloaded environment of trying to get these PPE products, on the market. I think that ties along with some of the other manufacturing ideas that these are being made in America because there's just not a lot of anything in this area in that space that's been made in America for quite some time. So I think it is kind of pushing the resurgence of made in America for PPE, if nothing else.
Let's come back to that in a minute. How about the OEMs? Have they asked you to change your product assortment as a result of what pressures they're facing?
At this point, what we're really seeing is, we made some small parts. We were looking at maybe doing some ventilator parts at one of our facilities that does stampings, but a lot of ours are large injection molding, and it really wouldn't have converted well to the crisis there. So what we're really being asked to do is be ready on a dime to transition back into production.
Okay. How about the supply chain? I mean, logistics, it seems like, certainly in the B2C markets, the whole last mile delivery, e-commerce reprioritization. Are you having supply chain rejigging issues?
Yes, as with most people, our parts come from all over the world, and whether it's northern Italy or China or anywhere else that's been impacted, Mexico, with their national shutdown to the end of April, and the automotive industry's not been declared an essential target group in Mexico. So at this point, there is no automotive production or uh, supplier production in Mexico either. So, we are battling through all that. We will be trying to come back up at the same time everyone else is, as well as the B2C market and Amazon we're competing with, fortunately we don't do a lot of air shipments because it's not our, logistics chain. But as we start back up, I'm sure there will be some short-term air freight from, we did have suppliers in the Wuhan area that were some of the first to go down. So, yes, this global supply chain, we don't have frequent flyer miles for some of our parts. Some of them could have done pretty well otherwise. So.
You're awfully calm for what you're describing, yes. um,
Yeah.
let's talk about how have your systems, ERP, whatever you use for your supply chain optimization, how have they coped with these capacity demands or, assortment demands, I guess?
Well, the good news is from an economy perspective, the U.S. economy for us was doing very well before, early February. Things were moving along well. We were seeing good business in some of our key product lines because, like you say, we do supply basically all the OEMs in the world, even a large number of local manufacturers in China. But if it's got a nameplate out there that's recognizable, we sell product to them. So it's been a good market from that perspective. So the ERP system has always has been running at pretty much full tilt. The good news is that system is cloud-based SaaS model, so that we don't have to worry about scaling up or down hardware-wise. It's built to scale up and down as need be. The other systems, and that's all accessible via the internet. We did have it locked down to where a lot of access could only come from inside the Inteva network. At this point, with all the people working from home, we did open it back up to with really just a flip of a switch to allow anyone from where they were to get in with their normal credentials. So ERP's been working, other systems been working very well. We'll talk a little bit more about that as we get to the load on the network and things later on.
Yeah, so if you had been at Delphi, it would have been mostly on premise, right? Your ERP.
Yeah.
Would that have been a little more of a issue as you move so many people remote, as you move to the edge, I guess, people working from home and so on?
Yes, it's been remarkable how effective we've been able to be in working through this situation with our internet-based SaaS model, uh, email, SharePoint, collaboration tools. A lot of that's been accessible via the internet for years with us. We worked to do that so we wouldn't have to have VPN, virtual private networks, to get to everything. I know a lot of companies that didn't allow you to get into anything without a VPN. So because no one ever worked from home or on the road very often, we knew that our goal was to be at the customer site, to be at the supplier site, and we had to make it where the engineer could work 24 hours a day, wherever he was. We took laptops. We went from 80% desktops to 85% laptops in about 5 years. As we replaced them, we just went to laptops. So now we're running, we have about 2,600 or so salaried engineers and employees. 2,300 of those are working from home with laptops or even some desktops we took home for designers, compared to other companies I've heard of in the Detroit area where they're actually having to work shifts so that the engineers can get some time during the day to get in, check their mail, and do a little bit of work.
Oh,
So,
wow. Okay. So for you, it was, I'm sure it wasn't a no-brainer, but it wasn't as disruptive then.
It was not as disruptive, and I think it's sent a great message to our leadership team and to the rest of the staff that we can do our work from wherever we need to be. That's been a good thing. In fact, I saw one friend of mine that's from Detroit. So it's a smaller company, but he said the good news for us has been the biggest problem we've had in the last 3 weeks is people forgetting to take themselves off mute on Zoom conference calls. We're in the same boat. So I feel very good about that.
And the kids running in on Zoom.
Well, yeah, a little Zoom bombing from the ankle biters. Yes.
Tell us a little bit more about what other acrobatics has your IT team done and management has noticed?
Well, an example, we have engineering and technical centers, engineering support all over the globe, and our Bangalore office and our Juarez, Mexico office are good examples of, they had not made the move to engineering laptops yet. They were still using a lot of desktops. And for example, in Juarez, I think we had 50 desktops that had never been taken out of the building before. Of course, why would you? But within a day, we had all of those set up and were taken home just in time for the government to declare the work from home. And we've done things in Bangalore like increase bandwidth of people's houses so that they can run better internet, so they can get into the systems. But at this point, even one of our engineering managers in Bangalore is giving a presentation as part of a conference there on how they've been able to do their engineering work through the outage. And so they said they would share that with me so we could share it with our IT team, because that's who made this happen. This is all while we're going through a major network upgrade to, well, I call it an upgrade. We're moving away from a service, network as a service provider, managed service, kind of the old MPLS model, to SD-WAN, and we're going to be saving about 60% on our network, all while we're making this move and supporting this environment as well.
Well, hopefully management is noticing that you're doing, backflips to be able to deliver that.
They are. Everyone, I think when they closed the books for March in the last couple of weeks, the finance team, was very concerned that they wouldn't be able to do that because they run everything inside the network, but we gave them all full access. They were all able to get their job done. So, that's always good when the CFO's happy with you.
Yeah, there's a few other people you can afford to piss off, but not that fellow.
Yeah, the man with the money. I actually was able to send him, I saw a mug that had the old term EBITDA. There's a new financial term called EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, amortization, and coronavirus. So he actually appreciated that one as well. So,
well, Dennis, you've always had a good sense of humor. I'm glad you still have it. Let's talk about let's talk about manufacturing. What every person I talk to talks about the new normal. We really don't know what's coming, but go ahead and predict. What do you think manufacturing? Do you think we're going to have more automation, a little less dependence on humans? Just put your future hat on.
I would say that automation will be stronger as we go forward. And I think a big chunk of it is not that we do want to have, distancing between workers in the manufacturing space. But I guess my thought is we've revealed our dependence on the global, economy, and that there are challenges when something like this happens, and we're concerned about China, particularly with all the product come from there, critical product, whether it's medical or things. I think there are a lot of people thinking about that, and I think that that's going to help drive more manufacturing in the States, which I think will have to do more automation, simply because I don't think we'll have the work pool to handle it. Second, we have to keep the cost reasonable. I mean, does somebody really want to pay twice or three times as much for the same product because it's made by American labor versus best cost country or whatever you want to call it, low cost, low skill labor? I think there's going to be a drive to do more in the States. And I think what that opens up for the workers here is that person that can work between manufacturing and has some degree of a technical, not necessarily background, but an interest. Someone that could work with robotics, someone that can work with the equipment that's out there. I think that's from what I've seen, a very good place to be. A friend of mine has a nephew that went through a local community college here, got some robotics certification, and was actually working out at Tesla in California, and had Elon Musk come up to him and talk to him, because I think he saw that this was a skill set that there's just not a lot of,
Sure.
and was interested. So that was for a 21-year-old kid, that wasn't a bad deal to be out there working on there. And here comes one of the more visible automotive CEOs on the planet to talk to you.
And space and Euro, he's pretty impressive.
Yes.
What, with the workers, do you expect a change in terms of safety, hygiene? Do you expect more OSHA involvement, or too early to tell?
I think it's a little early to tell. I haven't heard yet from some of the workers' councils and unions. I haven't seen as big a push other than some concern. But I'm expecting OSHA will probably be the one that will drive a lot of that. I think as an employer, it's up to us to help set some of that direction. Not that we'll get less standards, and that's not what we're asking to do, but that they are something that we can work with. Because I think the idea of somebody standing shoulder to shoulder has gone away to a large extent anyway. Sure. We do a lot more automation in our facilities than we've ever done. So I think that'll just continue to drive.
Let's go back to the point you were making a minute ago. Clearly, the sentiment is bring it back, right? Is that more political talk? Are you hearing it in the business community also? How serious is the move?
I am hearing it in the business community. I've been hearing it from some of the doctors, because they're concerned that they just haven't been able to get the equipment. And when you see that, there's a lot of faulty testing equipment out there that's coming from overseas, I think that is a drive. Of course, it is an election year, so that's going to be front and center. But I do think that this has been a major wake-up call for people across the spectrum, the political spectrum, to see that maybe we do need to change the way we do some things.
Even the testing reagents. I mean, China, we're very dependent on China. A lot of the pharmaceutical supply chain is.
For us, rare earth metals from everything from magnets for our motors to windings for motor rotors. Things that are done. We've done a lot more with automation. We do a lot of that in France, windings ourselves, because it's all automated now. But we look across the globe, and we've got the low cost. The spots are China, India, Romania, and Mexico. Romania and Mexico, maybe you're in a better position because they are in the trade zone, rather than the other two, which are not. So I think there'll be a lot. Maybe it's not last mile, which means it's made down the street, but it's definitely made in the neighborhood.
How about agility? You think people are going to keep expecting these kind of backflips, or is it going to settle down again to the previous normal?
I think that what we've shown that can be done with a lot of the medical things that have been shown, I don't think that's going to be allowed to go back to the old normal, where tests are ready in weeks rather than years, and we're getting vaccines loaded. I think that general mindset, and when you have people like Elon Musk who are doing the same thing in automotive, where his view is you should be able to change on a dime, or you build a tent factory next to your other facility so that you can produce quicker, or you get China, Tesla China was up and running in less than a year. So, I think that agility is there. We're seeing it from other automotive customers as well, where, they want to add more color, more complexity to an interior of a truck, which is not where you always thought that would be done. But we're seeing, an explosion in the number of parts in a door compared to what there used to be. So, I think, yes, just more and more of it in technology is going to be the only way we can solve the problem.
So Dennis, let's come back to your CFO again. Is he going to hammer on you and say, I want a pound of flesh out of IT costs? What do you see coming in the next, first of all, what do you see in terms of the recovery? You talk to optimists and, oh yeah, it's going to be a V recovery, right? President certainly thinks so. You talk to pessimists and it's going to be an L recovery, right? Really slow. Where do you see?
Well, with what I see for our EDI requests from our customers, it's definitely starting out as a V. Not a U, because we're not hanging in that bottom a long time. My biggest concern is it's a W. And I've heard some other auto suppliers are going, the worst thing would be for us to get all of our people back on May the 4th, which is kind of the magic date for a lot of the American in U.S. and Mexico OEMs, is May 4th is looking to be a big date. We're seeing those orders coming in now, so we'll probably have to start towards the end of next week to be prepared for that. But if we get up and ramp up and then it shuts back down, I think that will scare people even more than where they are right now. But L's, I don't see that happening. I think there's just this pent-up demand to do something and get back to where we were. I think that's not just in the U.S. I think it's global. So I really think, I'm hoping for the V, and trying to make sure it's not a W or a K where it starts going up and goes right back down and doesn't come back up.
Well, that's you're closer to the president. You're pretty optimistic then.
Yes.
Clearly you're being cautious. Everyone's being cautious. What does that mean in terms of your IT spend? Have you started to think about that, or is it too early?
Well, no, we've been thinking about it, and we've been on as I say, we sold a good chunk of our company. Well, not a good chunk, about a third of the revenue about a year ago. So, there were needs to cut cost and, resize for that. And I think we've met that target. I think, there may be some short-term, I guess you could say stopping spending for a short period of time. But I think we'll see as the orders come back, there's a lot of technology we want to do. And I think we've proven that we've delivered at an economic scale. We still run at less than 1% of revenue for IT, for Inteva. So I think we've shown we can deliver, and there are some things we want to do. One of the companies I'm highest on right now is Fortinet. With their VPNs that come with their firewall, we've been able to provide 800 to 1,000 people concurrently running inside our company, running our applications and internally, even our engineering apps, which are fairly high bandwidth requirement.
Right.
So that's done well. They also sell switches, and they do sell them a lot cheaper than some other people in the switch business that probably have a more familiar name. So we are looking at spending money, but actually maybe at 40 to 50% less than we would have with the other brands.
Well, it sounds like, given how the doom and gloom, you actually sound pretty optimistic. So that's good to hear.
Yeah, I think if things go like I'm seeing it, we're going to see good recovery. People, and $1.67, people want to buy a truck or an SUV. They will not buy a Prius right now. That's just so. And that's the price of gas in Detroit right now. It's $1.67. It's kind of on the high end.
Costco in Florida where I am was $1.55 last week. So yeah,
Yeah, so that's, when it's that cheap, the big vehicles do extremely well, and we're lucky in that we're in a number of the large vehicles. Interiors, we make dashboards or cockpits or instrument panels, or what do you want to call them. We make the door trim. We make the floor consoles, which is the center
yep.
console. We make door latches. So we see I see it personally, a lot of opportunity. I am optimistic. So.
Well, and places like Texas haven't been hit too hard, and so the truck business should be still okay. And yeah, any final thoughts? What would you tell your CIO peers who may not be as comfortable? What should they be planning for?
I would, work from home video. We use Zoom. We went from about 1.8 million to 3 million minutes of video calls. I think we had one instance of a Zoom bomb where somebody came in for a minute, and I guess the meeting was so boring they just got back out. So, we haven't had that as an issue. Of course, we don't post our Zoom meeting IDs on social media, so that probably helps. But, the cloud has done great. For us, we've been using it now for 12, 13 years. But the ability to scale up to a massive switch of people working in the office 90% of the time to no one being in the office wouldn't have been possible without the cloud and without Fortinet. So,
Dennis, I've written a case study about you, so I'll make sure my readers can go back and read the whole case study on how Inteva made the decision to move to the cloud. So
sure.
Great. Well, thank you so much, and stay safe. And keep that optimism up, and let's hope for the V.
Yes, let's hope for the V.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye.